Alrighty, guys, we have made it to the day. If you are listening to this podcast episode, we now live in a world, in a universe, where an MCU Fantastic Four trailer is out. It is very exciting. I would argue that this movie, in fact, ironically, this movie and Superman are opening 2 weeks apart, but this movie is very similar to Superman. It doesn't have nearly as much writing on it as Superman does, to be fair, because Superman has the weight of an entire new cinematic universe that, it really needs to do well in terms of critical success in order for the DCU to at least have a fighting chance, because the DCEU failed so spectacularly in terms of critical reception and box office performance and whatnot. But we're not here to talk about the DCU or the DCEU, just comparing the two films because I think Fantastic Four First Steps, while not, again, if Fantastic Four First Steps doesn't work, I don't think Marvel is doomed necessarily, but I think that it's doomed, no pun intended. But I do think that it's going to be a critical, it's a critical fork in the road because I think Fantastic Four are going to be a big part of the MCU, but also there's a lot of pressure for Fantastic Four to work because they just haven't worked previously in other iterations. So we now have seen the first teaser trailer for Fantastic Four First Steps, and I thought it was amazing. Dare I say, this time, pun intended, fantastic. To be upfront, there are two things in the trailer that I'm not even going to say I hated, I just didn't like. And one of those things is really just trailer specific, although it could be movie specific, which I'll touch on in just a second. But I want to get to just overall thoughts. I'll talk about then the two things that I kind of didn't like, and then we'll just talk about all the things I loved in the trailer. But overall thoughts. If this is a teaser trailer, because it is, it's called the official teaser trailer, and it was just going to give us a sense of what the film was like. I think I'm so on board with what's going on here. One of the most underrated things about this movie, because yes, the cast is great. Joseph Quinn, loved him in Stranger Things. Vanessa Kirby, she's awesome in a lot of projects. Eben Moss-Bachrach, Emmy Award winner from The Bear, by the way. That thing bit, with Herbie when he's cooking. I think that was a very intentional nod to The Bear that other people pointed out. And then, of course, Pedro Pascal, Mandalorian, but more importantly to me, Last of Us. And, he's such a good actor. And I mean, we're not going to talk about Wonder Woman 1984. But anyways, the cast is incredible. We see Galactus. But, the vibe of the trailer, the tone of the trailer, the family orientation, just how focused it is on them being a family together. I love it. I think it's fantastic. Again, I'm going to keep saying the word fantastic, and probably it's mostly unintentional, but, maybe it's intentional. Anyways, the two things, though, that I didn't like, before we get into all the things that I loved about the trailer. Well, number one, I'm not going to lie, especially in that scene where the thing was cooking. The visual effects are not super impressive to me. I think later on in the trailer we see him running, and it's much quicker and he's in motion, so it's a little harder to tell. And he's also a little bit further away from the camera, so again, it's a little bit harder to tell. And then later on also, he's kind of in the shadows looking at the TV and seeing himself as a human, seeing the Eben Moss-Bachrach version of himself. And I think in the shadows, it actually looked a lot better somehow. It almost looked like, in that shot, it looked like practical effects, actually, which was really cool. But in the scene where he's just being lit by kitchen lights, and it's just kind of, full lighting on his face and everything, it looked a little plasticky, I'm not going to lie, in the scene where Herbie is helping him cook dinner or whatever he's doing. And again, I've said this many times. For me personally, visual effects are almost never going to make or break a movie. If they're so bad, because there are always exceptions that break the rule, if they're so bad that they're distracting, then sure, it's going to detract from my enjoyment. And if they're so good, case in point, Avatar: The Way of Water, for example, that they add to the experience, then of course they're going to make the movie better. But on balance, right? If the thing, if his CGI is not the best, right? Whatever, I'll get over it. If his CGI is incredible, but the movie is terrible, because honestly, I think the CGI for the thing in Fantastic Four, the 2015 version, was pretty good, honestly, and that didn't make the movie any better. So, no, visual effects to me never make or break a movie, ever. I shouldn't say ever. Almost never make or break a movie for me. I said this about the Avengers, right? 2012's The Avengers. I think Captain America's costume in The Avengers is terrible. It's awful. Like, who designed that? It's awful. But doesn't make the movie any worse, doesn't make it any better. It is what it is, right, for me, because the movie itself is so good. So anyways, that's one thing, though. If I had to point out a couple things I didn't like, number one, not super thrilled with how plasticky he looks in that scene. And the second thing I mentioned earlier might just be a trailer thing, honestly. It may not have any impact on the movie itself, although I suspect it actually will play into the movie. And actually, that might not be a bad thing, because the other thing I didn't quite love was the choir singing Fantastic Four at the end of the trailer. I don't know. It just totally, the trailer was great. It was humming. All of a sudden, we hear a choir sing Fantastic Four as the title comes up, and I was like, oh, that's kind of lame. And I had a very similar experience actually with the Black Panther Wakanda Forever, that first trailer, which I still maintain is not only the best MCU trailer that I've ever seen, it is one of the best trailers. It might be the best trailer I've ever seen. That first Black Panther Wakanda Forever trailer. It's amazing. It's phenomenal. I mean, that trailer alone makes me want to cry every time I see it because, again, it's incredible. But at the end of that trailer as well, the logo comes up and somebody whispers Wakanda Forever, and I was like, oh, do we really need that? Doesn't make it any less, the best trailer that I've ever seen, but it's just something where I'm like, oh, whatever. The reason I say it might actually play into the movie is because it seems like there is a lot of self-awareness around the Fantastic Four as a brand, right? Like these are, there are kids cheering for them. So it seems like it's sort of a worldwide or at least, a global or United States kind of phenomenon that they are the Fantastic Four, the astronauts, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe. And maybe they have a theme song, and it's that. I don't know. Michael Giacchino doing the score for this, by the way, amazing. I love Michael Giacchino, so I don't know if he composed that or whatever. I've heard the theme. The theme is great. But yeah, I mean, that was the other thing I kind of didn't like. Let's get to all the things I love, though. Matt Shakman was the perfect choice to direct this. I know John Watts was originally going to direct this, and I would have been so on board for that as well. But seeing the way that Matt Shakman is approaching this, it gave me all sorts of WandaVision vibes in the best possible way, especially at the beginning of the trailer when the aspect ratio is more the traditional TV kind of setup, right? The old, the smaller aspect ratio, just like how he did in WandaVision, which I loved. I think that's fantastic. The retro 60s vibe, great, But most importantly of all, and I don't know if he wrote the script for this. I don't think he wrote the scripts from WandaVision either, but he's able to direct actors so well. He's able to direct emotions so well, because what I loved about this trailer over everything else, because sure, I mean, Galactus looming over New York City, kind of cool, kind of looks, I don't know, looks a little plasticky. Maybe that's by design. I don't know. And then seeing, Human Torch flying around and seeing him in space, which is great. I think Joseph Quinn looks awesome in the role. Thing being Thing is great. Herbie looks fun. Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby look great together. It's so crazy to think that we were speculating about all these different permutations of the cast, like Adam Driver and Margot Robbie and all these other people. And yet when I see this team on the screen, that is what a good casting director does. They focus on the vision of the story they're given and not the vision of all these fans who have no idea what the story is. Because when I see this family on screen, I'm like, oh, perfect casting. And so, and again, we haven't seen the movie yet, so who knows, right? But, what I loved about this trailer, getting back to that point, is that there is true heart and emotion at the center of this. I love that really the only lines we hear from the movie, other than the beginning, welcome to the Baxter Building, is this thing of like Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards saying, well, before the accident, or he didn't call it an accident, but before our mission, you didn't turn invisible. And there's a scene where he's trying to hold her, but she turns invisible, which is, I don't know, that's kind of haunting. And then he's like, and Ben was, wasn't a bunch of rocks, and Johnny wasn't, be able to turn into fire. To which, Vanessa Kirby, Sue Storm, she responds, well, Ben was always a rock, and Johnny's always Johnny, and I'm right here. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. That's the kind of heart and emotion that it just harkens back to WandaVision in all the best ways. And guys, I mean, this trailer, aside from the two little things that I didn't like, and it's a teaser trailer, so again, this movie could be bad. I mean, we don't know that, but the trailer, I mean, it won me over. Now, I'd be curious to know, for people who have no idea who the Fantastic Four are, who are not remotely excited for this, and who saw the trailer, I'd be very curious to hear how they experienced it. So if any of you guys are like that in the comments, let me know, because I'd be very curious to hear how this trailer hit you. I think obviously a lot of hardcore comic book fans are going to be very excited about this trailer, but yeah, I mean, I was blown away by it, and I think that we are on such good footing. I desperately hope Captain America Brave New World is good, because Thunderbolts, I think, is pretty much a lock to be a decent, if not good film. I think, at least. It has all the makings of it, and I think Fantastic Four could be great. So I'm really hoping Captain America Brave New World is at least good, because that means that 2025 is going to be a great year for the MCU. But guys, what did you think about the first teaser for for Fantastic Four First Steps? Are you excited, or did you actually not like the trailer, which is totally fine, but let me know about that in the comments down below.